Hey guys, my name is Brandon Setter, and I'm gonna show you how I built my custom doorway dolly. Basically, I want to run through all the parts and tools that you're gonna need, and then we'll build it together. So this is my custom design, and I think my favorite part about this whole thing is that everything you see here you can purchase at Home Depot, and you're gonna come home with what you need to just assemble your dolly. So let's begin with the tools that you're gonna need. Your basic drill, 1/4-inch bit, so you're gonna need a Phillips bit as well, clamp, a tape measure, a stapler, a box cutter knife. Okay, let's go over the parts list. Let's talk about the drivetrain first, so the wheels and axles and parts related to that. First thing you can go to is your gardening section of Home Depot, and you're gonna find these basic dolly wheels, and these are used for like hand trucks, garden equipment, things like that. The thing to look for is this 5/8" hub here, and as well as the offset hub. And these are air-filled tires, 10 inches across, and you can also get them solid rubber as well. I went with the air-filled so I could deflate or inflate the tires based upon how much weight is going to be on the dolly or how rough the surface is that we're going to be riding over. So you're going to need 4 of those. Those run about $19 a piece, and I think this is probably the most expensive part of your build. Let's see, the next thing you're going to need related to the drivetrain is your axles. And if you head over to the hardware aisle, I'm going to go over everything that we have related to hardware at this point. Over at the hardware aisle, you're going to find these 36-inch long by 5/8 diameter threaded rods. You're going to need 2 of those, and that's going to become your axle for your dolly. So you're going to need 5/8" hex nuts. You're going to need 12 of those, 8 5/8" washers as well. And then to attach your axles to the deck, the underside of the deck for your dolly, you're going to need a few more parts. You're going to need these 1/2" pipe couplers. You can find these in the electrical aisle. To attach this coupler to your deck, you're going to need 1/2" pipe clamps, tie downs. You can find these as well on the electrical aisle right near these couplers. And again, on the blog, I'm going to have everything you need, a whole parts list listed out. So you just take that to Home Depot and you just go buy all the stuff. The last thing you need related to attaching the axles and wheels is some 3/4-inch large head screws, Phillips screws. And this is going to be what you use to attach these pipe clamps or tie downs to your deck. Now let's talk a little bit about the hardware you're going to need for attaching your deck pieces together. You're going to need 16 of these 2-inch long by 1/4-inch diameter round head bolts. You're also going to need 16 washers to go along with those, and you're going to look for 1/4-inch flange washers or flare washers, something similar to that. You're also going to need 16 of these wing nuts. These wing nuts are going to go on those bolts as well. Lastly, you're going to need the hardware for the tie down of your tripod. This is a 5/16" diameter threaded eye bolt. It's 2 inches long, and that'll fit nicely going through your deck. You're also going to need a 5/16" flange washer and a wing nut to go with that, 5/16 as well. Okay, so the next hardware you're going to need is the parts to make your handle. Let's begin by looking at the piping needed to make the handle. Head down to your plumbing section, and you're going to look for 36-inch long, 3/4-inch diameter threaded pipe. That's going to be the main shaft of your handle. At the top of your handle, you're going to need a 3/4-inch T-section. Again, galvanized pipe. You're going to find it right in the same section of your Home Depot. And then lastly, you're going to need these 2 little cross pieces, and I think these are also 3/4-inch diameter, and I think that's about 2.5 inches long. You can go whatever size you want. Just a little tip, when you're buying this long 36-inch piece, look for one with these little orange caps on either end. Generally they come with these protectors for the threads. These make really nice protectors for the ends of your handle later on, so try and buy a piece of pipe with those on it. What you need to attach your pipe down to your deck is found over where you'd find your flags and your flagpoles, and it's just a adjustable flagpole mount, like what you'd mount on the side of your house. It's made of aluminum. It receives a 3/4-inch diameter pole, so it works perfectly with the handle for the dolly. All right, let's talk a little bit about the wood that you're going to need to build the decking for your dolly. you're going to need to go down to the plywood section, and you're going to find some bins of different sizes of pre-cut sheets of plywood, smaller than your standard 4-foot by 8-foot sheet. You're going to see 3/4 inch MDF cut in 2-foot by 4-foot sections, and you're going to buy 3 of those. And then you're going to also have your Home Depot guy, the associate there, cut that into sections for you while you're there. You're going to buy 1 2-foot by 4-foot piece, and you're going to leave it untouched. The other 2 pieces you are going to get cut. Your first piece, you're going to cut into 4 1-foot strips. And make sure you measure that off. The first time around, the Home Depot guy cut those wrong for me, so I'd recommend measuring it yourself, making marks, and then having the guy cut it for you. Just that way you know it's going to be even more accurate. And then I'm going to move these aside for 1 second. And then with your last 2-foot by 4-foot sheet, you're going to make the wings for the deck of your doorway dolly. And these wings are going to be removable by design. And the reason why we got 4 1-foot pieces is so that way if you want to remove one of these wings, you can replace it with a 1-foot piece, and then now you just got a narrow dolly. So it's really kind of nice to be able to do that. So to make these wings, I know these axles are 36 inches long, so I wanted 2 pieces that combine a full length of 36 inches, so 2 18-inch pieces cut out of that 2-foot by 4-foot section of MDF that you buy at Home Depot. So you're going to be left over with a little bit of scrap, but overall you're not wasting hardly anything here, so that's really great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about drilling the holes for your deck. I would suggest that you line up 3 of the edges of your pieces, clamp those together, and then I measured out the holes and I drilled them all together, and I ended up using one of these pieces as a template for everything else. So when I moved on to the other 3, I used this as a template for the holes on those pieces, so that way everything matches up perfectly. So the measurements for that, again, they're going to be below on the blog, but I'll go ahead and give you those here in the video. So we have 1 hole at 6 inches and another hole at 18 inches. From the smaller edge, here and here, here and here, I measure in 2.5 inches actually. So it's 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches, again 2.5, 2.5, and then again that was at 6 and 18. So basically those are all the holes that you drill. You drill that in all of your deck pieces, and you are finished with the top layer of your deck. So now what you're going to want to do, and this is where even more clamps would come in handy, but you're basically going to lay out these pieces on your deck, and if you want, you can get really fancy by doing the measurements, but my brain just doesn't work that way. That was just too complicated for my head. So what I did is I clamped all my deck pieces onto my main frame of my doorway dolly, and then drilled the holes using the top layer of the deck as my guides. The other thing you could do is just use your template piece as your guide. You can come up with a good way to do that on your own. Before you do install all your decking, I would recommend, if you do decide you want to paint your dolly black, or this would be a great chance to do it. I wouldn't recommend doing it once you have it assembled, because that's just going to contaminate the way your parts all function. So that would be actually my next step, but I'm actually going to start assembling it here so you guys can see the assembly process. Okay, so I thought we'd begin by assembling the deck first, and then we'll put the drivetrain, the axles and wheels on to the deck once we finish assembling the deck. So I've got my wings here, wing number 1 here, wing number 2, and I've lined them up in the middle of my deck. I've already pre-drilled my holes. So what you do next is you basically are going to line these up, and you're going to grab your 2-inch quarter 20 bolts, and you're going to slide them through. And also, just a side note, when you did drill those holes, I'd recommend countersinking those holes. So if you have a countersink bit, I would recommend countersinking them because that'll help the little square piece on these round head bolts sit flush with the top, so you don't have them protruding, making your tripod off center or anything like that. So as you can see now, I've got all of the bolts in. You've got your two wings on either side. Let me spin this thing around. You got your two wings on either side, and you've got a really nice deck right now. So the next step is to drill a couple of holes to build an anchor for your camera and tripod. So basically this is completely up to you. Wherever you decide you want the holes to be works great for you. What I did is I measured perfect center here on either end, found perfect center, drilled a hole all the way through, right on this seam, and that is one location for this center bolt. I also did it right here at the kind of the intersection of these three pieces, dead center, and then on either side just slightly offset, so that way I can anchor my camera from three different locations if I like. And that's what you're going to use your eye bolt for. I'm not going to install that quite yet. I'm going to install that once I have the wheels on. So now at this point we're ready to work on the wheel installation. First thing you need to do is flip your deck over. And you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need your axles, you're going to need your wheels, all the parts that we went over earlier related to your axles and wheel assembly. You're also going to need your drill with your Phillips head bit. First thing you're going to do is we're going to mount the axle. So you're going to grab those 1/2-inch couplers and the 1/2-inch tie-down clamps, and we're going to mount those to our deck. What I did is I measured down 6 1/4 inches from either end, and I drew a line all the way across, and that's going to be where my axle runs. And then I went ahead and I measured 2.5 inches in from the edge, and then I went exactly dead center as well. So basically you just slip this little U bracket over your coupler. You keep the Phillips heads of your coupler facing straight up. You grab some of those 3/4 inch wide head Phillips screws, and we're just going to attach them to the deck at our appropriate marks. Okay, so now all of your axle mounts are installed, and the first thing you need to do is slide in your axles. So I've got my 5/8 inch diameter, 36 inch long threaded rod. I'm just going to go ahead and slide this through these couplers that we already have installed. Now this is an important part. It's important to make sure that you do center your axles. You know your deck is 2 feet wide, your axle is 36 inches wide, and so you just need about 6 inches on either side of your deck, and you know you're real close to center. 6 inches, 6 inches, that's great. So now what I did, and now what you need to do is just go ahead and tighten down these bolts on your couplers. Don't go too tight. They aren't, you know, super indestructible. They are a little bit flimsy maybe, but just tighten these down. Okay, so now that both of your axles are installed, you got to first install your inner bolts, which are going to allow you to set how far away from your main chassis here, your main frame, how far away your wheels are. So remember when we were talking about the wheels before, we purchased offset hubs. Now, if you weren't able to find offset hubs, this is where, you know, I've designed this thing so it doesn't matter if you find offset or not, it'll still work out for you because you can use the bolts that we place here to create an offset hub. So go ahead and grab 2 of your 5/8 inch hex nuts, and you're going to run those on either portion of your axle, all 4 areas. Okay, so with those, you're going to want to run them right up tight against your deck, and then you can use friction in opposite directions with these to make them lock tight in position. Now if you didn't purchase offset hubs, you're going to have to do your own measurements of how far in to run these and then tighten them down. And then you might need a crescent wrench in order to make sure these are nice and tight, and those are going to become your offset hub, so that way your rubber on your wheel doesn't rub against your deck. Next thing you're going to do is put a washer in between these nuts and your wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and slide a washer on. I'm going to go ahead and run around the whole dolly and put on all the rest as well. Okay, so now that we have the washers and inner nuts installed, we're ready to put on our cool wheels. So if you have the offset hub, that's going to go towards the inside facing the deck. So the next layer is going to be another washer and then an additional bolt. And that's going to keep your wheels on. Now we have a pretty much fully assembled dolly. All we have left to do is put on our camera anchor, and of course we need to mount our handle. So to mount our anchor, I'm going to go and slide the anchor here in our front position. And now you're going to need that washer and wing nut on the bottom as well. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do to finish off our dolly is install our flagpole mount at the tail end of the dolly. So again, we had those screws that we used earlier. We're going to use the exact same screws. Basically just going to find the center. We know that's 1 foot. So now we've got a really nice adjustable mount for our handle. And lastly, take the handle that we assembled earlier, slide it down into the flagpole mount, give it a couple of turns. All right, as you can see, I just finished painting my deck pieces, and I've got my carpet laid out face side down on my table. And I'm going to show you guys basically how to carpet your pieces. You're going to make sure that you carpet the proper side, and I'm going to double check that. I'm going to carpet the side that I've countersunk the holes. So what I'm going to do, what I've discovered works pretty well, you get your spray adhesive. And it's really important you spray right close to the edges, because the edges are what are going to eventually start to peel up just as you use it more and more. So just spray on a nice thick coat all the way around your boards, making sure you get right out to the edges. I go around the edges twice with a nice thick coat, and then I go across the middle, you know, with some zigzags. Make sure you get those corners really good. All right, so now I've got that. All you need to do is flip your piece over on to your carpet. I bought 12 feet of carpet, so I've got plenty to cover my entire deck. Now I just go ahead and press it down, really making sure I put lots of weight on the corners, get it to hold in there tight, nice and firm. All right, now you're just gonna have to wait a minute, make sure that actually sticks really well. Looks like it's sticking really well. And it's really important to get it to stick all the way out to the edges. That's the most important part. Now that it's stuck down onto our carpet, we need to trim the excess around the edges. So this is where you're going to get out your razor blade box knife and just put the blade right up there in the edge, and you're going to trim it all the way down every side. Now be careful. This is probably one of the most dangerous parts of our build. Now it should look like that. One thing to keep in mind when you're gluing down your carpet that I almost made the mistake of doing my first time was making sure if you have carpet that has you know, lines going a similar direction, you want to make sure you carpet all of your pieces the same way, so that way all your lines match up nicely. That's just purely aesthetic, but it'll look really good when you're done. All right, so now to find the holes. Once you find the holes, take your knife again, and you're just going to cut a little X. You're going to just push your knife into the hole, kind of in a little X pattern. All right, so now we got those holes taken care of. I like to put, at least on the wings, you don't have to do this on every piece, but I like to put some staples around the edge, right up close to the edge. All right, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and slide the bolts through. And as you can see, that looks really nice. We've got this nice gray carpet, industrial carpet. It's gonna take a beating for us. You know, our camera operator, our equipment, everything that's gonna be riding on this dolly, this carpet's gonna do well. But that's how you carpet your plates. So just repeat that process for all of the top parts of your dolly. You don't obviously have to do that to the main frame piece, but all of your top pieces, that's what you wanna do. All right, so here's your finished doorway dolly, complete with carpet, nice black paint. I've got these tires filled up at 10 PSI. They come stock at 25 PSI, so 10 seems to work really well to cover a lot of the uneven surfaces. I went ahead and painted the flag mount here black as well. So, you know, you got a real cohesive design. And in the future episode, we're gonna do basically how to convert this for tracks. So we're gonna put track wheels on it and, you know, basically do that. So I hope this allows you guys to get the very cool, smooth shots that you're hoping to get. And we'll catch you guys next time. Again, my name's Brandon Setter. See you later.